This episode brought to you by Stamps.com. Why go to the store to get stamps when you can have them printed right at home for your convenience? Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Critic guy. Remember it so you don't have to. I want to talk about the M&M characters.
Why?
I'm glad you asked, audience represented by late 80s Michael Keaton movie, because surprisingly, not a lot of people do. Oh, don't get me wrong, the M&M characters need no help getting noticed. M&M's candies have been around since the 40s, but if you mention the brand name today, it's almost impossible not to think of the funny, distinct, and memorable characters that have been associated with them for over 20 years. Also, make no mistake, people do talk about them at certain times. After their new Super Bowl commercial that runs every year, their theatrical promos played in several movie theaters, their Christmas ad that stayed the same for over 20 holiday seasons, you could even turn yourself into an M&M on their site for a while. These characters are as amazingly popular now as they were when they were first created. But that's what people don't talk about. How were they created? Who came up with the idea? And how have they been lasting for so long? In doing research, I found there's actually not that many sites discussing where these icons came from. I couldn't even find any videos on it. Plenty on the candy brand itself, but not the characters, at least that I could find. Well, you know what? There deserves to be. I know these characters exist just to sell a product, but we've had whole movies based on that premise. And we got angry when they weren't nominated for Oscars. Just because they're used to sell something doesn't mean they can't leave a funny, charming, memorable impact. We know the personalities of these timeless characters like we know Bugs Bunny or Mickey Mouse. Characters you had almost 10 minutes at a time to get acquainted with, but with these guys you had only 30 seconds. 30 seconds to make a connection, and we still feel like we know these characters inside out. That's something that deserves to be explored. So we're gonna look over how these characters came to be, who they are, and how they've entertained kids and adults for so many years. Let's start at the beginning. M&M's was created in the early 40s, and like any brand, they utilized advertising. Though they went through several different strategies and spokespeople, they never had an official mascot that lasted for a long amount of time. E.T. would have been perfect, you both have 2 letters in your names, damn fool! The closest thing they had to a long run was putting faces and limbs on the candies themselves, something a lot of products have done over the years. Though no distinct personalities were formed, they did seem to focus on 2. A red plain one and a yellow peanut one. Something about those 2 colors and those 2 shapes side by side seemed to be the most eye-pleasing. In the mid-90s though, sales weren't performing as they wanted. M&M's was not only becoming just another candy, but it was becoming one that was easily imitated. Something had to be done to make them stand out. With a relatively small budget, they asked advertising firm BBDO to breathe new life into them. The creative director at the time, Susan Credle, knew they didn't have the ad spend of other big clients like Coke or Pepsi, so they had to think simpler. She and her team came up with the idea of giving the M&Ms personalities, even making them a little more adult so they wouldn't just be associated with kid stuff. Lucky enough, they had the talent of Blue Sky Studios to animate them. Yeah, that Blue Sky Studios. And the campaign began with different primetime celebrities interacting with the red and yellow M&M. The tone was more laid back, sophisticated, showed they didn't have to always be bouncing around to be entertaining.
You want one?
Surely you jest. One bite and all my composure is lost.
We'd help you find it. Well?
I'm giddy. You didn't notice?
Notice what? What is she talking about?
It was a totally different approach and people seemed to like it. While the commercials were a nice change of pace, everything changed when this commercial premiered.
Look what we have here.
Just your friendly neighborhood M&Ms.
The same M&Ms that come in the bag?
Same ones.
The actor's catching on.
And rich milk chocolate on the inside?
Yes!
Oh, then I'm really glad you came by.
Why is that?
Because I'm all out. Which one of you is peanut?
He is. I hear he's delicious. So long, buddy.
Now you might be thinking, what's the big deal? That just seems like the other ads we saw. But there's a couple things to keep in mind. 1. The M&Ms had 100% defined personalities. Red was snarky, egotistical, and kind of a backstabber. Yellow was laid back, optimistic, and usually clueless. This not only added more energy to the campaign, but also identities both kids and adults could find funny. Second, this is the first time they got celebrities to voice them. That's John Lovitz as Red and John Goodman as Yellow, who would both be their voice actors for several more commercials. Like Disney did with their movies, adults could now enjoy listening to comedic talent they recognize, thus attach more interest in. Third, this is the definitive design that Red and Yellow would have from this day on. If you look at the originals in black and white, you almost wouldn't be able to tell them apart, but with these, you definitely could. If a kid was to look at a coloring book, he could easily tell which one to make red and which one to make yellow. And a lot of that's because they had the creative genius of the late Will Vinton. Yes, Academy Award-winning Will Vinton. Founder of Claymation, creator of the California Raisins, animator of that disturbing as hell Mark Twain movie.
What's your name? Satan.
The legend himself. Though he's best known for stop motion, he found he liked trying out different art forms and discovered he was really good at computer animation. So he took his shot at this, and I guess if you really look at them, you can see the resemblance to his other characters. It's no wonder the M&Ms almost seemed cinematic, as it was brought to life by so much cinematic talent. From there, the campaign was set up. Take these easily identifiable characters, put them with a celebrity, and just let them interact off each other. The personalities of the two were so polar opposite, you didn't need much else.
You're so sweet.
Thank you.
Give me a break. So, is it love?
Yeah, and love hurts.
It was simple, it was funny, not too expensive, and people remembered it. In fact, the original idea was to have several commercials running at a time with a different celebrity in each one. But again, costs were limited, so they would usually just pick one that had good comedic timing and use them in several continuing ads. People like Steven Weber, Dennis Miller, Tia Carrere, and my personal favorite, Patrick Warburton.
You're eating M&Ms.
Yeah, so are you?
You don't eat your own kind, it's unnatural.
Here, give me that.
Ooh, I like crispy.
Give me the bags. Oh, that's just disturbing.
Over the years, the voices of the M&Ms would switch out too. Red, for example, was replaced by Billy West, and Yellow was replaced by J.K. Simmons. Yep, that J.K. Simmons, who apparently still voices him even to this day. But this was only the beginning for the candy-coated family. Many more were about to join the literal colorful cast. And much more good, clean wholesomeness was on the way. Yeah, it gets a little weird. Why? I suddenly realize I need stamps! I will simply go to the post office and get some. Goodness gracious snow! I hate snow!
It prevents me from getting stamps!
Wait, Angry Me, what if I told you there was a way that you could get stamps without having to go to the post office? I'd say cabbage, because I think that word is funny! But you see, silly fool, all your problems can be answered by simply going to stamps.com. Here's a slightly less annoying voice to tell you about it. If you want to start off the new year with a resolution you can keep, stop going to the post office to send letters and packages when you don't have to. Save time and money this year by going to stamps.com. It's so handy when on days like this the weather is really bad that you can just print out your stamps right at home. Whether it's mailing out Christmas presents or letters or bills or whatever, I use it all the time. Stamps.com is the faster and more convenient way to get postage. Simply use your computer to print official US postage for any letter, any package, any class of mail, anywhere you want to send. And the mail carrier picks it up. No more lugging mail to the post office, no more hassles. Stamps.com not only saves you time, it saves you money too. With Stamps.com, you get discounted postage rates that you can't even get at the post office, not to mention a fraction of the cost of those expensive postage meters. And there's no equipment to lease and no long-term commitments. I use Stamps.com because it's convenient, easy, reliable, and efficient. And right now, you too can enjoy the Stamps.com service with a special offer that includes a 4-week trial, plus postage and a digital scale. That's right, a digital scale that you can actually measure your packages with. So start the new year off right. Go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage and type in Nostalgia. That's Stamps.com, enter Nostalgia to get your 4-week free trial. Stamps.com, why travel to Stamps when Stamps can travel to you? yellow going over so well, it only made sense to expand the M&M family. In 1995, a contest was held for what would be the new M&M color. The results came in overwhelmingly blue, so it was decided they should give him a personality too. Blue, voiced then by the late Phil Hartman, was the only other nut character, though it alternates from almond to peanut, and at the time had a plain version sidekick too. He was the cool guy. Everything went his way, and Red and Yellow were always extremely jealous about how smooth he was. This also made him the most boring character.
Did you get to dive into that big pool of milk chocolate?
No. You don't dive in anymore. Insurance, lawsuit, someone might hit their head. They make you wade in now with a buddy.
Oh, bummer.
Well, one nut cracks a show.
It's kind of like writing Superman or Mickey Mouse. It's just tricky to write for someone who's supposed to be so perfect. There's certainly been examples of people doing it very cleverly, but Blue's personality was only one joke. He was more successful than Red or Yellow. This is one of the reasons you don't see him in many ads by himself. The laughs usually come from what Red and Yellow think of him.
They're not blue.
Blue M&Ms?
Mr. King ate him. One bite, saw with my own eyes.
That's also one of the reasons they dropped the plain sidekick. If they couldn't even write one of them that great, you can't really do two that great. Still, it was good to have an all-around cool guy around, I suppose. Sort of the straight man to the strange antics. But he wouldn't catch on nearly as much as Green.
Oh, the chocolate experience you've been waiting for.
Green makes me think things God doesn't want me to think. Green, voiced by Cree Summer, who I don't think gave that character a take over the world plot yet, was the first female M&M and was made to promote the dark chocolate, mint, or peanut butter brand. Her main thing was she was the sexy one. Because DeviantArt is writing commercials now.
Well, my new movie's opening. And no, Dennis, I don't remove my shell.
Of course not.
So I'll be honest, at first I didn't really like Green because back then, whenever a girl entered an all-boys club, she was either forgettable or just the sexy one. Looking back though, she's actually not as bad as I remember. First of all, she does have a personality. She's kind of a diva, has a glamorous confidence to her, but is also pretty cynical.
I don't know which one's worse. Thanks, guys, I needed that. Pathetic.
Go buy a bag.
Honestly, I'd argue she has more personality than Blue. Secondly, a lot of her character is based around one big in-joke. In the 70s, an urban legend arose that green M&Ms make you horny. How, why, who, nobody explains, but let's be honest, is that really the craziest thing you heard from the 70s? There was even an ad that almost straight up addressed it.
Question, sugar.
Yes, Dennis?
Is true what they say about the green ones?
That is an ugly rumor. It's a lie! How did this thing get started?
Okay, so you're not lime.
Lime? Where do you get your gossip?
Knowing that starting out actually makes a lot of this pretty clever. And honestly, a sexy M&M is just funny to me. It's literally a circle, and they play it off as like the most erotic thing in the world. It actually gets some really good laughs, especially when you see how seriously some of the actors play it.
That's what boys do.
But he's my little boy.
At his age, I'd be concerned if he wasn't interested.
It allowed for a lot of surprisingly risque jokes, and to the character's credit, everyone stripped down at some point. Usually on multiple occasions.
Don't, eyes down. Nothing to see here.
Correct once again.
She actually gets funnier the more I look back on her. The next one on the list is Orange.
You're that new crispy M&M's guy, huh?
What are you trying to get me killed?
Orange is my favorite character. Voiced by Eric Kirchberger, Orange represents the crispy brand and the pretzel brand. His whole character is, he's super paranoid. Where the others are good at smoothly avoiding being eaten, he's just freaked out by everything. He's freaked out about dying, he's freaked out about women, he's freaked out that a pretzel is apparently gonna be shoved up his ass.
All right, let's get this over with.
He just cracks me up. He's a total spaz. Every time I see him, I feel sorry for him, which just makes me laugh even more. I'm feeling sorry for an M&M.
Could you just for 1 second put yourself in my place?
That's funny. Oh, there's your cousin. Oh, that's your first date, Cheryl.
It's kind of like those pigs you see advertising barbecue. What if they became really aware of what they were doing and they just spiraled into a depressive episode? There's just something so bizarrely morbid about it that I can't help but crack up. He's definitely a keeper to have around.
I don't know why everyone wants to eat the crispy M&Ms. I mean, I know I'm...
Next came Brown, or Miss Brown, because I work for her? Yeah, no, the others had titles before their names, unless you count White M&M. Voiced by Vanessa Williams and representing plain and dark chocolate, I almost feel like she's a response to any hate Green might have gotten in the past, because she's the complete opposite. While Green is fun-loving, Brown is all business. While Green is a wisecracker, Brown tells no jokes at all. And while Green loves being sexy, Brown is constantly pissed that everyone confuses her for being naked.
Only a fool would think I'd actually show up naked.
So it's that kind of party. Hit it!
I'm sexy and I know it.
She's so serious, she should do a detailed commercial about her getting insurance from the Geico Gecko. That happened?
Geico only insures humans.
Guess what day it is?
Save it, hump boy.
Despite being a stick in the mud, she does get some good laughs, particularly at the expense of the other M&Ms.
Steer clear of Kristen. She'll devour you.
Really?
Yeah, thanks for introducing us.
Anything for a friend.
She's a nice fit to the cast. There's been other side characters over the years too. There was a chocolate bar which things would always go bad for because he would melt in the sun. Get it? Melts in your mouth, not in your hand. He was also voiced by Phil Hartman. There's a pretzel that's sometimes Orange's wingman, voiced by Maurice LaMarche. And there's a cube of caramel, voiced by David Cross, who's always geeky. They're gonna fix him though by putting him in an M&M to stop him being so square. I know how lame that is, but they got David Cross, the only likable man in the Alvin and the Chipmunk movies. By God, I have to give a pass on this! The characters are so relatable that they don't even have to change the commercials much when advertising in other countries. Because the animation is already done, all they have to do is change the people out and the language.
Go buy a bag.
Am I on Mama?
Because I'm all out. Which one of you is peanut?
He is. I hear he's delicious.
Because, my little friend, I've just run out. Which one of you's peanuts?
He is. I hear he's delicious.
Their popularity is so big, they've worked with pretty much everyone. Danny DeVito, Halle Berry, the X-Men, Shrek, Darth Vader, ooh, even Keith Apicary. He's betraying his Skittle boombox. Susan Credle even admitted she knew it would be a hit, but to have an M&M store based on the characters open in Las Vegas and still remain open for over 20 years was far beyond her expectations. And indeed, the lasting power of these characters probably went beyond anyone's expectations. At the very least, you hope your campaign will sell more of a product, but to create iconic characters that are still beloved and watched repeatedly on TV and YouTube is something very rare. Commercials have gotten millions of views before online, but there's so many compilations and so many people, both young and old, who love seeking them out. It's not just one commercial they like checking out, it's a ton of them. Not just because they're funny, but because the characters in them are so likable. It's always expected they're gonna have a Super Bowl ad every year. It's always expected the same Christmas commercial will play every year. And honestly, they could go even further. In the theatrical promo satirizing movie trailers, they say,
This is why we don't make movies.
"Why don't you? I would totally see that!" If Ernest, Willy Wonka, Uncle Drew, and Lego could get their own successful movies, why not them? The characters are already set, they work great off each other. If the goddamn Geico cavemen could get their own show, yeah, that's right, Google it, actually don't. These guys could work great in a movie. Okay, so it's a successful campaign with successful characters. Why is that a big deal? We've seen other product mascots last a long time, even longer than them, in fact. Well, here's the thing. The M&M's mascot combined 3 things that I can't think any other product mascot combines. 1, they're some of the few commercial characters that have looked exactly the same for over 20 years. Lots of characters last for a while, but they usually change with the times. True, at first they had to find their fitting, but within a year, they got it. And once they had that definitive look and personality, they kept it exactly the same for over 2 decades. That rarely happens. 2, they're surprisingly fleshed out characters. Even the best food mascots like Tony the Tiger or Ronald McDonald. They're positive icons that sell their products, but they're not 3-dimensional enough to write a movie or a show around. These characters are. Even though they're simple, they're still very human, and you identify with them very quickly. And 3, they're some of the only commercial mascots that kids enjoy just as much as adults. Lucky is great for children, but not gonna do much for adults. The Allstate guy gets a laugh out of grown-ups, but kids aren't really gonna be sucked in by it. No matter what age though, you laugh just as hard at these characters. Enough that some celebrities who don't really need to voice them out of necessity anymore, still come back to recreate their roles every time. Even though they were just created to sell a product, they still created characters that are kinda similar to ones like Animaniacs or Looney Tunes. In fact, a lot of M&M ads have been even funnier than Looney Tune ads occasionally. For having only 30 seconds or less at a time, they created some clever, timeless, hilarious, and even at times kind of risque characters that people enjoy watching around the world. I'm not saying these are deep, complex character studies or anything, but they are funny, relatable, and imaginative icons in a field where only one of those qualifications is needed. They're commercials, yeah, but they're ones that we rely on seeing every Christmas, every Super Bowl, every time we need a good laugh. All I'm saying is a lot went into making these characters, a lot still goes into making these characters, and it's worth showing how appreciative we still are for that effort. I'm the Nostalgia Critic guy, remember? So you don't have to. Hey everybody, Doug Walker here. We're doing the end credits a little differently because a lot of times people don't wait through the credits, they don't watch it all, and they miss the charity shoutouts at the end. So what we're gonna do from now on, we're just gonna have the little logo at the end of the video, and then we're gonna have the credits play at the bottom, and we're just gonna jump straight to the charity shoutout, and we're gonna make them a lot quicker so you have a chance to click on the link. If you don't want to, you can click on other videos, but we highly recommend you go to these wonderful organizations. At least share the link with other people. If you can donate, but definitely raise awareness because these are such good organizations. So with that said, we're just gonna go to our first one. This week's charity is Give Kids the World Village. This is an 84-acre nonprofit resort in Central Florida that provides week-long, cost-free vacations to children with critical illnesses and their families. The village and its community partners provide children and their families with accommodations in fully furnished villas, as well as transportation, tickets to theme parks, meals, daily entertainment, and so much more. This is a wonderful idea doing wonderful things for wonderful families. Definitely consider clicking on the link and checking out all the good they have to share, and see if you can share that good right along with them.